Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And this one is definitely amazing, and it may be music that's unfamiliar to you. And if it is, then you're in for a treat. It's Finnish composer Eino Juhani Rautavaara doing, well, let's see, Garden of Spaces, which is a 13-minute tone poem. His clarinet concerto, played by its dedicatee, Richard Stoltzman, who's amazing, and his most famous piece, Cantus Arcticus, a concerto for taped bird sounds and orchestra, which is beyond nifty. And we have the Helsinki Philharmonic Orchestra, birds from somewhere in Finland, and Leif Segerstam, conductor, on Ondine. And this is Ondine's, actually, it's their second recording of Cantus Arcticus. And for this one, they cleaned up the tape stuff. You know, it's kind of interesting, actually, if I may digress for a moment, that while contemporary music has introduced to us all kinds of new sounds, thanks to electronics and modern gizmos and gadgets, in some ways, it's more fragile and more difficult to realize than the more traditional stuff, because acoustic instruments don't require electronics, and electronics introduces a whole different set of conundra that need to be resolved in live performance. I remember very vividly when I saw a performance of something called Sea Change by Jean Ivy, I think was her name. She was the head of the electronic music studio at the Peabody Conservatory. And, you know, the Baltimore Symphony was sitting down there and the speakers were setting up. And I've told this story before, but it was hilarious. And you know, they're getting ready to play. You know, it has all these tape sounds that are part of, it's supposed to be watery in some way. And all of a sudden, one of the speakers was picking up a local radio station, and you hear R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Tell me, it's Aretha Franklin. It was hysterical, absolutely hysterical. So they had to figure out what was going wrong and how to get the speakers to stop playing Aretha Franklin. And everybody was laughing. And I mean, this is what happens with electronics. Stuff can go wrong. Well, one of the wonderful things about Rautavaara as a composer is that he manages to use the full resources of modern musical technology, but he does it in a way that allows him to be himself. I mean, he adapts it to his own style, and Cantus Arcticus is just one of the most fabulous examples of that, because you've got these taped birds and, you know, whooping cranes and things, and all going woody, 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 screechy noises. And he has the woodwind section of the orchestra also playing stylized birdsong that's similar to what's on the tape. So he seamlessly integrates the tape sounds into the orchestra. And they weave in and out. It's marvelous the way he does it. It sounds natural. It sounds right. Absolutely right. And the three movements of the piece, it's only 20 minutes long, have some of the most beautiful music in contemporary literature. I mean, it's tonal, mostly, sometimes not, but mostly, and just glowing. And it's a thrilling piece of music, and you really, really need to hear it, especially in this performance. Now, the other pieces here, Garden of Spaces is a tone poem sort of thing, and it allows the orchestra to, it's partly aleatoric, is I think the word for that, you know, where you know, people can come in and out as they will, or sections of the orchestra come in and out. Each performance is going to be a little bit different, because the sections are not perfectly synchronized with each other, but they still go together. It does not sound like random noise. It sounds like, well, the title really does say Garden of Spaces. There's a sense of spaciousness to the sound, of things moving in an open, constrained area somehow, which is the garden. It's another nature inspired work that's absolutely beautiful. And this is a wonderful performance. It's 13 minutes long. And finally, the major work, or the other major work, is the Clarinet Concerto, which has to be one of the great works ever written for clarinet and orchestra, especially the slow movement. It uses the full technical repertoire of modern clarinet technique which is, high notes and I don't know, multiphonics. I don't know what else. I mean, it's clearly a contemporary work, but it's also got some of the most exquisite melodies in the universe for the clarinet. I mean, Rautavaara had a special feel for the clarinet, as I pointed out in my original review of this on ClassicsToday.com. And by the way, if you're a ClassicsToday.com subscriber, go look up this review because there's a sound sample that you can enjoy of Cantus Arcticus. And it's wonderful. But the slow movement of this concerto is just exquisite. I mean, Rautavaara had real feeling for the clarinet. In his opera, Alexis Kivi, which I was privileged to see at its premiere in Helsinki, he used an orchestra of mostly strings with percussion and electronics, very well used, and just two clarinets. And afterwards, I spoke to him. He was so pleased at how many sounds he got out of the clarinets, how they, from their high-pitched, sort of screechy, shrill sounds to the mellow, liquid middle tones. And they, Mozart loved the clarinet for the same reason. And he writes for the instrument with sort of Mozart's love of the instrument. It's a great, great piece, full of gorgeous melody and a real sympathy for the instrument, and which you don't always hear. In contemporary concertos, composers, it seems, look at the, the range, the notated range of the instrument. And so they write whatever they want within that range and probably a few notes outside it just to challenge the soloist to make some incredibly screechy sounds. And then the oboe concerto sounds like the tuba concerto, sounds like the clarinet concerto, sounds like the bassoon concerto, sounds like the, frog concerto, whatever it is. But no, this shows a really, really deep affection for the solo instrument, and that's what makes the difference. So this is an absolutely fabulous recording, and without a doubt, there it is. So you can see it clearly, or more clearly, one of the greatest recordings ever. Trust me, you won't be sorry. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.